This is the Begin Within podcast, where we believe real, lasting health and fitness requires you to start inside before you work out. I'm your host, Nate Slegger, and I'm here to show you behind the scenes of fitness. You already know exercise is good for you, but what about all the other things in life that affect your fitness? If you're looking for extra motivation to get started or to make sure you keep going, this is the place for you.
Produced by BeginWithin.fit.
A really interesting thing happened this past week, or rather this past weekend. We officially felt the transition from summer into a different season. Of course, it's not officially fall just yet. That's going to happen later this month. If you're listening to this at the time of its recording, it's September. And we just went through Labor Day weekend. And here's an interesting thing that happens Labor Day weekend. And I've observed this over and over and over again during my years in the fitness industry. And it's this: after Labor Day weekend, we feel this collective shift into a different season. It's no longer summer. It's not quite fall. It's a season that I call fitness. It's the fitness season. It really is. This is the time when schedules start to kind of have a little bit more structure to them, don't they? Kids are back in school. All the vacation time that we're trying to pack in during the summer months before school starts, or all these other pressures that we feel traveling for weddings, for graduation parties, those kinds of things, they're all starting to dwindle. They're starting to become fewer and farther between. And as a result, some of that time off is changing. We're going back to kind of, I guess, some people feel like it's the grind, the normal, everyday routine of life. And for me, I love it. I love routine. I love structure. You've heard me rant on that many, many times. But for all of us, it tends to be a little bit healthier place to be in terms of our schedule, in terms of the expectations that are on our schedule. And as a result, we start looking at how we can make better use of our time, how to start improving our health, trying to work out consistently, trying to do the things that we've been wanting to do for the past few months that just, it wasn't possible because of all the demands, all the changes, all the fluctuations in the schedule. Without the consistency, we can't really have the space, even the space mentally, to make the improvements that we want to make. We need a little bit of consistency, or rather a lot of consistency, in order to start to know what to expect in life, right? We need consistency so that we can start to have more control over other variables, like adding things into life. So during these past few months, there have been things that we want to do, but we haven't been able to work on them because so many other things have been changing. We've been just trying to hang on, just trying to figure out, all right, this week, what are we doing? What's different? Where do I need to be? Where's the family going to be? What does the weekend hold? And now we're getting into this, okay, we're going to mostly be home. We're going to mostly be at work. We're going to mostly be doing things on a regular routine. And it's a beautiful thing. And so as a result, we enter into the fitness season. This is the time of year between September and October when people start coming back to the gym. If they have a gym membership and they've been away from the gym, people start, dusting off the workout equipment at home, at least making an effort to use it. And if that's where you're at, I want to give you a huge high five because you have gravitated back to it. You've gravitated back toward making healthier choices. And maybe during the weekends now you're thinking about how can I prepare for a healthier week? With a regular routine now, we can start to prep food, bring it to work. We understand we're going to be home in the evenings for dinners, those kinds of things. And so the grocery shopping might be getting a little bit more focused. We might be taking that a little bit more seriously right now. It's awesome. You get it. I probably already talked too much on the point. It's the fitness season. Labor Day is gone. Here we are. What are we going to do? Right? I want to help you to be set up for success. And so I'm going to share with you three things that you can do to make sure that this fall, this fitness season, whatever you want to call it, is the most successful one of your life. And I really mean that, and I really want it to be that for you. I really do, and I believe that it is possible. So with these three things, I want you to keep these in mind so that in the weeks to come, you get to a healthier situation in your life than you've ever been. I believe that's possible. I believe it's possible for myself. I believe it's possible for you. No matter how long you've been working on it, no matter where you're at, no matter how big the change you want to make, I know that in the next few weeks, the next couple of months, as the weather starts to cool down, as we settle into the regular routine of life, you can absolutely move in the direction you want to go to being a fitter, healthier, better version of yourself. But I want you to do these three things. So here they are. Number one is to be the turtle, be the tortoise. Number two is to have a very clear focus. And I did not anticipate that these were going to rhyme, but I feel like they are. And now I'm going to blow it on the third one. I know. So we have tortoise, focus, and number three is change one thing at a time. All right, I totally blew it. Wasn't even close to rhyming with the other one. So let me go back in and let me tell a little bit more about what I'm talking about in each of these areas. So let's go back to number one, tortoise. I want you to make sure that you connect with a tortoise. And when I say tortoise, I want you to think about that old story of the tortoise and the hare. And you remember it very clearly. Obviously, the hare, very fast creature, gets from point A to point B very quickly, hard to catch, and he's racing against a tortoise, which is notoriously slow, right? Moss grows on the back of a tortoise shell because he is never going anywhere quickly. But you remember the story, the hare, because he's so fast, he relies on that throughout the race. And so gets from point A, not all the way to point B to the finish line, but then he stops to, whatever, talk with his friends, goof around because he's so confident that he's going to win the race. While the whole time the tortoise is just moving very slowly in the direction of the finish line, always consistently moving in the direction of the finish line, while the hare is zipping, zigzagging along, not going in a straight line, and getting distracted. And of course, the story ends with the tortoise being the winner. That's how we need to take a look at improving fitness and improving health. We need to be the tortoise. The tortoise always wins this race. Any change in life that's worth making is very often done slowly and consistently, because that guarantees that it changes who we are in the process. We change along the way. And we're not just changing one element of our life very quickly. Because if we can change it very quickly, then we can unchange it very quickly. But if we take it nice and slow and consistent, like the tortoise, we can make sure that we're changing. Our brain is changing along the way. And the rest of our life, not just that one element that we're trying to change, but the rest of our life can accommodate the change when we do it slowly and consistently. So, don't overdo it. Be very careful that you don't overdo it right off the bat by just running out of the starting blocks and being like, I'm going to work out every day of the week. This is going to be the most crazy, insane workout plan that I've ever done. Or I am going to stick to this diet, this restrictive diet perfectly, because now I feel motivated because of the time of the year that it is. It gets cooler and I have more structure in my calendar. Now I'm going to stick to this restrictive diet perfectly. What ends up happening is long term, those things don't stay a part of life. And we end up not being successful. Sometimes even more disappointed, maybe disillusioned about the whole process of improving health and fitness as a result of having approached it the wrong way, the unhealthy way. We get burned out, perhaps we get injured physically because we try to do something that we just weren't ready for. And we may also perpetuate an unhealthy relationship with food down the line, something that has to be undone eventually if we're ultimately going to be successful. So instead of that, be the tortoise and just ease into the new routine, the new lifestyle, the healthier version of yourself. Just ease into it gradually. Focus on something that you know you can stick to most of the time. When I say most of the time, I mean like 80% of the time. 80% of the time, you know, I can do this. I can absolutely do it. It's very realistic to take a look at the way life was for me, what was a regular routine, and now incorporate this new aspect and say, yeah, I'm confident I can make this work. So be the tortoise, make adjustments that you know are realistic for you in your current situation. Knowing we're trying to change the situation, we're trying to change life. We absolutely are trying to do that so that we can have a healthier life. But understand that the changes we need to make, they have to be relatively realistic for us to be consistent with them based on where we're at now. Okay? You get the point, right? Be the tortoise, slow and consistent. That's the first thing that I want you to keep in mind when it comes to being successful about, getting back on track, if you want to look at it that way. And of course, we've talked about that phrase before, but I also understand it's very real. It's something that we say to ourselves. So I'm going to say it to you now. If you feel like you need to get back on track, or you feel like you need to go to a place you've never been in terms of health and fitness, be slow and consistent. Slow and consistent. Now, number 2 has to do with focus. And with this, our focus needs to be small. And that's going to lead into the third thing as well. But what I want to highlight is how specific we need to be with the things that we are focusing on in order to make improvements. And we all fall victim to this because we might think about the change we want to make. I don't want to get stronger. I want to lose weight. I want to improve cholesterol, blood pressure, whatever it is. I want to sleep better. We want to make these changes, and they tend to be sometimes some very abstract things. We want to be very specific about the changes that we want to make, and not just what the change is, because some coaches will tell you, Well, you need to be specific. You want to lose weight? Tell me how much you want to lose. To me, that is not even specific enough. Because losing weight, and again, this is something we've talked about before here on this show, losing weight is a byproduct of improving health. It should be anyway. If just losing weight is our focus and we're just determined to do that, there's a lot of unhealthy ways to do it very quickly. So let's look at things that we know are really going to improve health and be specific about the things we are focusing on in those areas. And here's what I mean by that. Even if losing weight is the thing that you want to focus on, and you want to be specific about how much you want to lose, that's fine, but not necessary. My next question would be, what will you be doing differently when you have made the change that you want to make in order to get that result? What will you be doing differently on the other side of that change? And then let's get real specific about those actions right now. Specific focus. That's the point that we're talking about here. The focus has to be specific. And so someone might say, well, I'll be eating healthier. Okay, great. Tell me what that is going to look like. What does eating healthier mean to you? If on the other side of this change you're eating healthier, what are you eating? How much of it are you eating? When are you eating it? When are you preparing it? When are you shopping for it? Where are you going to shop for it? All these things end up helping us to really dial down a very specific focus. And what we want to do is make it so specific that it's a yes or it's a no. I either did it or I didn't do it. Okay? It's a yes or no. It's the switch got flipped or it didn't get flipped in order to get me the result that I wanted. And I want you to think about health as just a series of different switches that we need to flip on in order to make sure that we're moving in the direction that we want to go. So, for example, we talked about improving our eating, our nutrition, right? Okay, great. That's what we want to do. That's on the other side of the change that we want to make. What are the switches that need to be flipped in order to make that happen? So that you know each and every day that goes by, did you flip the switch or not? And this is where we get into just building habits in place. Building habits in order to move in the direction that you want to go. So one thing perpetually that I feel like I'm personally working on, this may be a bit of self-disclosure for you, maybe too much, maybe TMI, always working on better sleep. Always, 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 always. And maybe the reason I'm always working on it is my sleep is okay enough. I don't know. But here's one example. Flip the switch. Did I get to bed within the 9 o'clock hour? Right? That's something that I think is very important for me. When I do that, I feel so much better. Is it a yes or is it a no? Did I do it or didn't I? And as I answer that question and even track it each and every day, yes or no, did that switch get flipped or didn't it? And having a little means of tracking it, notepad, piece of paper on the fridge, notes app in the phone, did I do it or didn't I? I can tell you how successful I'm being in terms of improving my health in that area. And most importantly, if I am doing it, I have the opportunity to reflect on what I'm actually, what steps I'm taking, what steps I'm actually taking. Let's try that in order to flip that switch every day. So, am I getting ready for bed? in the 9 o'clock hour? Am I getting up off the couch and walking away from Netflix in order to get ready for bed in the 9 o'clock hour, right? There's a lot of little actions that add up. And what ends up happening when we have a focus that's very specific, we end up seeing what actual tiny little habits we really need to focus on in order to move in the right direction. Does that make sense? I hope that it does, because what I love to do as I coach people, absolutely, is help them to take a look at what they need to do in terms of habits in order to make sure that they're moving in the direction that they want. We love making habits so small, so tiny that, yes, absolutely, I know I can do this. I can do this consistently. It's so tiny, it's so small, it's so easy. I don't even need any motivation to do it. When our focus gets to be like that on habits that are that small, that almost insignificant, but we know they're going to help us to move in the direction that we want to go, that's when we really start to unleash permanent change in life. And that's when things get really exciting, when we start to understand that process. Now, the third thing is closely connected to that second thing. So we talked about the focus, being very, very specific. Now, the third thing is just focus on 1, 2, or 3 things at a time. In the coaching course that I do, that I have my clients take, we urge people to only focus on a maximum of 3 specific habits at a time. And even 3 sometimes is too much. So dial it back and just focus on 1. Pick the one that for you is most important and put your focus there. Because if it really is most important, what's going to happen is once you flip that switch, others are going to be easier for you to flip. And I'm just using that example. I'm using that metaphor again of flipping those switches. I hope you're following along with my train of thought. So if we pick one that truly is most important, we will know, because that thing, having done it, is going to make following through in other areas that will improve our health even easier to stick to. So all we need to do is focus on 1 thing at a time. And once we've got that down, once we're consistently flipping that switch, we can focus on something else. What's next most important for me? And when you really focus on something for a week or 2 and you do it the right way, it doesn't take long for it almost to become automatic, and hopefully to truly become automated, truly become a habitual part of your life. And when you get really good at building habits, creating them, choosing what's most important for me to focus on now, how do I make it really small, and how do I get myself to do it? When you get really, really good at that, things get really exciting in terms of making improvements and making changes. And that is what I want for you. So yes, it is the fitness season. June, July, and August are all behind us. We feel maybe a little sad that summer's over, but we're ready to move forward. We are ready to get some structure into our life and to use that structure to improve our health permanently. So let's do it. Let's get busy. Let's make sure that we are like the tortoise, slow and consistent in the changes that we make. Let's make sure that our focus is very, very specific. Is this switch on or off? And then lastly, just focus on 1 thing at a time. If you want to be real ambitious, if you're feeling like, Nate, 1 is just not enough for me, don't do any more than 3. The human brain loves the number 3. We can focus on 3 things maybe at a time, 3 changes that we're trying to make, but don't do any more than that. Please change one thing at a time. Just focus on a small number of things. Small, specific focus, and just a small number of focuses in order to continue to move in the right direction consistently. Now, if you are all set, you are feeling like, I've got this, I can't wait to implement these tips, and you're ready to go and do this on your own, awesome. That is why I'm here. That's why I do this show, is so that you can be empowered to know the things that I've learned, that I use to help clients to make health improvements on a day-to-day basis, so that you can use them as well. However, if you're feeling like, honestly, there's no way that I'm going to really follow through and do this. I have these goals. I have these results that I want. I've tried this so many times before, and I really don't feel that confident this time that even with these 3 things in place, that I'm going to move ultimately in the direction that I want to be. If you're feeling that way, it's okay. I want you to know that it's totally okay. Here's what I have done. I have a coaching program, which includes that course that I mentioned, which teaches you how to build habits. It teaches you what types of foods to eat in order to reach your goals. It teaches you how to eat in order to reach your goals. It teaches you little habits that have to do with hydration, that have to do with sleep. I mentioned that. That's one of the ones that I personally always need to work on. Habits that have to do with movement, habits that have to do with having a healthy relationship with yourself as well as others and nature, the world around you. All things that contribute to truly being healthy, healthier versions of ourselves. They're areas that will always be part of life. They always need to be a focus in order for us to continue to move forward and becoming the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be right now. That coaching program is open for enrollment right now. If you could use a little support, just go to beginwithin.fit/coaching. Going to get some more information there about it, as well as the opportunity to get started. Every single Monday, we start our new clients. We do a weekly rhythm, Monday through Sunday. And so we want you to start on Monday, but every single Monday we start. Now, this podcast is coming out on a Thursday. So don't waste any time. If it's not Monday yet, get a spot and make sure that you are set up for success by having a plan, having even more structure, and benefiting from the work of so many others that have come before to find out what helps really move the needle in improving health and fitness. If this was beneficial for you, I beg you, please share it with somebody that you care about. I would love to help you in any way I can. You can connect with me on social media at Nate Slager. And another thing that I would love for you to do, if you would, is just take 30 seconds and rate and review the show in your podcast player so that others can find it in the future. Thanks so much for sharing your time and your attention with me. I'll talk with you again here on the Begin Within Health Show.